Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tom DiNardo, the original Wine Zealot. Welcome to another episode of the Wine Zealot on Tour. Today, we're visiting Stonington Vineyards here in beautiful Stonington, Connecticut. We're now tasting the Stonington Vineyards 2014 Riesling. Now, this is one of the grapes that is not actually grown on the farm, but Stonington Vineyards actually sources these grapes from independent growers. The beautiful thing about this particular Riesling is another one of my favorite grape varietals. The aromas on this particular Riesling are typical of what you would find in a German-style Riesling. One of the first aromas that you get off a bouquet is what's referred to as petrol or gasoline, which is very common actually in a Riesling. But just behind that, you have the wonderful aromas of tropical fruit such as pineapple or starfruit, etc. This is a textbook example of Riesling. You have wonderful flavors of Granny Smith apple, subtle notes of butterscotch in the background, an incredibly long finish. This is much like a spade-laced Riesling that you would find directly out of Germany. Again, Stonington Vineyards, this is one of their flagship wines. This particular wine has won gold medals for previous vintages coming out of Stonington Vineyards, and this is a wine that they're going to continue to make. Again, a textbook example of Riesling, and another one of my favorite white wine varietals. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now tasting the Stonington Vineyards Seaport white wine. This is a blend of Cuyahoga, Vidal Blanc, and Chardonnay grown right here on the estate. The first thing that you get off the aromatics are notes of citrus, some tropical fruit, and some minerality, very much done in the European style. Very smooth wine, medium plus acidity. It's a very, very light wine, light-bodied wine. I immediately find that I get a wonderful flavors of citrus, quince, some light tropical fruit. It's a little bit more tart, but I like that. This would be a perfect wine for robust wine that would be perfect with pork or duck. It's got a wonderfully long finish. And for a white particular blend, again, I believe I mentioned earlier that this is made up of three particular grape varietals, Cuyahoga, Vidal Blanc, and Chardonnay. A wonderful white wine blend. So ladies and gentlemen, what we're tasting now is the 2014 Shiraz Chardonnay made by Stonington Vineyards. This is an unoaked Chardonnay. I don't believe it's gone through malolactic fermentation. The nose on here is absolutely beautiful. Typical of a Chardonnay, you have wonderful aromas of a little lemongrass or citrus. The minerality comes through. There's wonderful flavors of lemon, some tropical fruit, some slight apricot. The finish on it is extraordinarily long. What I like most about this particular Chardonnay is it reminds me very much of the Chards that I've tasted in Burgundy in France, very much done in the old world style. It's not too fruit forward, it's not an oak bomb. This wine is definitely one that I could drink often, and hopefully in moderation, but I wouldn't promise that. Again, this is probably one of my favorite Chards that Stonington Vineyard makes. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now trying the Stonington Vineyards barrel fermented 2015 classic Chardonnay. The Chardonnay has obviously been fermented in barrels. The Shiraz Chardonnay, which we tried previously, was not. This is a Chardonnay that would be made in the typical style of Chardonnays. On the nose, you get a softer approach to the nose, so there's, rather than more of the sharp citrus, which we have in Shiraz, which I particularly like. What I also like about this is that it's a little bit more mellow, so you get the tropical fruit that comes forward. It's more of a subtle tropical fruit. There's a little bit of element of toasted coconut and almost the smell of a baking pineapple upside down cake. The aromatics on this, again, are very soft and subtle, but very pleasant. The mouthfeel again on this is much more rich and deep. It's and that's due to the malolactic fermentation. Malolactic fermentation is typically used predominantly in red wines, but you'll find that winemakers will often use it for white wines, and specifically for Chardonnay. Malolactic fermentation converts the lactic acid to malic acid. What that does is it creates more of a buttery mouthfeel. Unlike a lot of the Chardonnays that come from California, what's beautiful about this particular Connecticut wine and the Stonington Vineyards Classic Chardonnay is that it's not overly oaked, it's very subtle on the oak, and it doesn't come across as being a butter bomb like a lot of the California Chardonnays. Again, it's been about a minute since I've tasted it. The finish is very long. Definitely a beautiful example of a classic barrel fermented Chardonnay. We gratefully appreciate the hospitality of proprietor Abby Smith and her wonderful staff here at Stonington Vineyards. This concludes another episode of the Wine Zealot on Tour. Cent'anni.